Hello and welcome to Morning Trade with MoneyControl. I'm Karunya Rao and I'm here to help you navigate the trading day with actionable strategies, sectoral trends and most importantly your queries during the course of the show. So please keep commenting on our live feed and we'll have your queries addressed by our technical guest on the show. But before bringing our guests on board, let's see what the global handover looks like. Wall Street drifts down and US 10-year yield hits a fresh 11-year high ahead of Fed's interest rate decision tonight. The central bank is expected to raise rates by another 75 basis points. Markets across Asia also under pressure. Meanwhile, the SGX Nifty slips below 17,800 mark. European indices closed more than 1% lower. All major bourses and most sectors were in the red by close of play as investors awaited news on further interest rate hikes. Pharma stocks gain momentum and lead the broad-based rally in the markets yesterday. Is the sector finally making a comeback? Stocks in the spotlight will be Greenply Industries, Gateway Distriparks, Zydus Life Sciences and Triveni Turbine. Okay, let's get going and discuss some of those stocks and the technicals of the market with Gaurav Bissa of InCred Capital. Morning, Gaurav, and thank you for joining in. Talk to us about the trade setup. Do you think we would also well trade below 17,800 like the SGX Nifty is indicating?
Good morning. Well, the trade setup, if you look at the daily charts, then there's a possibility that we may slip towards the low of 17,700. 17,650, 17,700 is going to be a key level to watch out for. So if last couple of trading sessions, we have seen comfortable writing happening in 17,500, 17,600 put options, some writing in 17,700 as well. So if that sustains, I think we can see a bounce back sort of coming in. There's a trendline support area, which is also placed at levels of 17,650. If you draw the trendline from the penny close of 15,200. So on that perspective, if the levels of 7650 is sustained, and on opening note, if we are opening 100 points down and we are sustaining above these levels, then I think it can lead to a bounce back, intraday bounce back, or maybe bounce back till tomorrow. Same is the case with Bank Nifty, and unless the Bank Nifty does not crack, I would not be too bearish on that. Bank Nifty has been trading in a rising channel on 120 minutes chart, and it has reversed from the median line of the channel area. Fresh upside will be only if it gives an hourly close above 41,800, then we can expect 800,000 points upside. As any declines towards 41,000 will make it more interesting.
Okay, all right. A lot of mid and small caps on our radar this morning on the back of news flow. The first stock I want to flag off is Greenply Industries, very rarely discussed on the show actually. Tata Mutual Fund has picked up an additional stake in the company by buying 60,000 shares, which is worth 0.05% stake, and now their shareholding in the company stands at close to 5.05%. So on the back of this fund action, do you foresee any momentum building up on the stock? It has seen a good uptick last 1 month, but can this trajectory meaningfully sustain and build from here on?
Well, there are two ways to answer the question. If somebody wants to have a view for next few weeks, then I would not be too interested. But if somebody has a view of with a horizon of 2 years or probably more, then yes, because there's a equilibrium support area at 170 and it has bounced back smartly from those levels. There is a hurdle area of 250 as well. So in all likelihood, it might attempt those levels, and once it gives a weekly close over that, we can look for a bigger breakout sort of. So the structure is good, but it is not for people who want to have a very short-term view. For people with a vision of 2 years, this is a good stock.
Okay, all right. Moving on to the next small cap, again where some fund action has taken place. Gateway Distriparks, HDFC AMC has bought 5 lakh shares and now their shareholding in the company as it stands increased to close to 5.1%. Talk to us about Gateway Distriparks. Last 1 week, quite interesting, especially in the run-up to the announcement of the new logistics policy. But now that the announcement is already done, it's behind us, do you still see this momentum sustain?
Well, if you look at overall setup, again, like we discussed in the previous talk, it's still stuck in the range. I don't foresee a bigger move, but yes, you can see that 65 is acting as a good support area. So that can be used as a stop loss, again, not for a few weeks, but if somebody has a view of 6 months or more, then this is a good stock to buy.
Okay. I also want to flag off another name from the broader markets, Triveni Turbine. what we understand from a story that CNBC Awaaz did yesterday was that Triveni Engineering will be selling close to 12% stake in the company Triveni Turbine via a block deal. They're looking to raise close to 875 crores by offloading 3.8 crore shares. The share sale price range is set between 226.5 to 229 rupees a piece. If we look at Triveni Turbines, right now trading at close to those levels, 228 to 29 rupees odd. Do you expect any reaction to this story, this news?
See, the overall structure is extremely strong. It gave a 7-year breakout and post-COVID, and we saw the recent correction in mid-caps. It witnessed a retest of the breakout area, and we have seen a big upside. Strong candles on monthly chart being formed. So there can be some reaction and the stock might consolidate a bit. It might slip towards 210, 215 as well. But overall, the structure is good. For fresh entry, either it should give a weekly close about 235, then you can expect a very strong upside, or any declines towards 200 would make it more interesting.
Okay. All right, let's change gears and talk about what's happening in the pharma space as well. Before that, how's Zydus Life Sciences looking, Gaurav? They've got a marketing authorization for Nulibra in Europe. It's essentially owned by Bridge Biopharma, but good development, positive development coming by as far as the Europe regulator is concerned for Zydus Life Sciences. Talk to us about the stock. 370 is where it's perched at, but last 1 month hasn't been very, interesting or very positive for this one.
The stock is good. So if you look at the daily charts, it is forming higher tops, higher bottoms. So on that premise, we can expect further upside. The stop losses can be kept at levels of 350, and if these levels sustain, it can head towards the level of 405. Once it gives a close above these levels, we can expect a major move towards 440, 445 as well. The structure is good, but since the sector itself is not doing too much, it moves up 1 or 2 days, but then there's no follow buying happening as such. It has to outperform the entire space for it to go towards the level of 430, 440. Right now, for trading perspective, the structure looks interesting.
Okay. Request you to stay on with us. I want to touch base with my colleague from MoneyControl Pro, Anubhav Sahu, who also tracks the pharma space closely. And I want to talk to him about the recent rebound of sorts that we're witnessing in the sector. Anubhav, morning and thanks for joining in. There's been quite a run up in many of the large pharma stocks of late. What could be the driving factors? And more importantly, is it a temporary uptick of sorts, or can you see a meaningful recovery or a comeback in the pharma space?
So, so as far as US pharma generics are concerned, there has been a bit of an uptick in recent days. I think the only perceptible, sorry, I think there's a...
No, please go on, Anubhav, we can hear you.
I think there's a, there's a replay.
Anubhav, we can hear you. Am I audible to you?
Yeah, I can hear some kind of replay happening.
Okay, we'll try and fix that. We'll just be back to you in a moment. Meanwhile, I want to touch base with Gaurav Bissa. Gaurav, any of the pharma names that look attractive to you? Zydus, of course, you've shared your view. But overall, how's the index looking? And some of these larger names like DRL, Apollo, Cipla, which were really sort of rallying quite a bit yesterday.
Well, if you talk about proper pharma space, then as I said, the Nifty Pharma Index has not been doing too much. It's bounced back a bit, but overall structure is not extremely enticing at this point in time. However, if you look at Cipla, that is interesting. That has been a clear outperformer. It's made a fresh swing high, a small breakout sort of also happening. So if it sustains above the levels of 1016, then probably it can head towards the level of 1150. That is one name. Among the healthcare space, I think Apollo Hospital, as you mentioned, that is looking quite interesting. This is something which we had flagged off to our clients also yesterday. On the verge of a fresh breakout as well. Overall structure, it's trading a rising channel. So any declines in this name can be utilized to be long for another 8-10% upside. So among healthcare, Apollo Hospital looks quite interesting.
How is Laurus Labs? We're getting a live question. Some of these stocks you've already covered, so I want to flag off Laurus Labs as well. Yesterday also we saw a lot of queries come by on this counter. What are the technicals saying here?
See, there's no technical indicator that I can spot as far as my studies are concerned. If you draw a trend line from late 2021, early 2022, it has given a false breakout around levels of 575, 580. From there, we saw a good breakdown sort of coming in. So I will still give some more time. It's still stuck in the range. I would not be too interested in buying this stock right now.
Okay, all right. Anubhav is back with us. Let me quickly chat with him about the pharma space. Anubhav, we were asking you about the rally that we've seen in pharma large caps of late. Many of these names have surged even yesterday quite a bit. Is it a meaningful recovery or a comeback that the sector is finally making? And what are the big drivers here?
Yeah, thanks, Karina. Sorry, first of all, for the interruption. But as far as the pharma generics is concerned, yes, of course, last few days they have some kind of a comeback for them. The only perceptible factor which is sector specific, which I have seen is with respect to activity of US FDA and other regulatory bodies. So there has been of late some product approvals for the regulatory bodies. One of the most talked about drug has been the generic launches for Revlimid, which has been approved by a few of the players in the sector. Other thing is resumption of site inspection, which had been of the order of kind of a kind of a surprise inspection, so to say. And this activity has gone back to the level it used to be pre-COVID. Though it is a double-edged thing, but if you look at the kind of observation has been made, for example, for Goa plant of Cipla or Moraiya plant of Zydus, one gets the impression that observations are not related to data integrity, and probably they are at a striking distance as far as resolutions are concerned. But to my mind, I think the factor which would be in play for pharma sector in general would be valuation, because this sector had underperformed a lot compared to broader market for last 1.5 years. And given the macro context, I think it makes sense that some kind of defensive exposure could be increased for a sector like this.
So if one wants to invest at the current juncture in some of these pharma generic names, what would be some of these attractive plays to sort of dip into?
So as far as US pharma exposed generics are concerned, of course, the key concern has always been pricing erosion in US market and regulatory risk, which makes some of this business partly commodity business, having some kind of event risk. Now, to compensate that, of course, the variables to look at would be if the valuations are adequate enough for whether what kind of exposure they have to branded formulation sales as far as India and emerging market is concerned, and how is the compliance history. So if you look at those kind of metrics, so our preference in recent times has been for names like Zydus Life Science, Dr. Reddy's, and Cipla. And in all three names, I think they have substantial exposure to branded formulation sales. For Dr. Reddy's, less so for India, but they have substantial for emerging market, and they are trying to increase that for India as well. Dr. Reddy's also an interesting play as far as the oncology franchise foray into China is concerned. I think they're one of the few which are doing that. Cipla would be interesting more from the product pipeline as far as peptide products are concerned, which would be next big thing after the inhalation category leadership. And Zydus Lysine, I think, would be key watch for the new drugs for liver and kidney diseases.
Within the pharma domain, any other sub-segments that look good at the current juncture based on fundamentals, valuations, and future prospects?
Right. So the couple of sub-segments which we do like, one is that of CRAMS and second is that of pharma intermediates. Now, as far as the contract research and manufacturing service is concerned, of late, there has been a huge interest from innovators as well as MNC pharma companies to have a partner for research and manufacturing service in India. And some of the key players like Syngene, Divis Lab, and Laurus Lab have been doing quite well on that front. As far as pharma intermediates are concerned, we do like names like Navin Fluorine, which is a niche play on fluorochemical application in pharma. I think it's a less crowded space, something to watch out. AMI Organics is also another interesting name as far as pharma intermediates are concerned. They have a good presence in some of the molecules which are used as key starting materials of pharma intermediates. And they are also aggressively expanding that capacity. So it would be interesting to watch.
All right. Thank you so much, Gaurav, for chatting with us about what's happened. I'm sorry. Thank you so much, Anubhav, for chatting with us about the pharma space in detail and the stocks as well to keep on your watch list if you're interested in buying back and playing the defensive theme right now. Okay, back to Gaurav once again. Gaurav, a lot of queries lined up for you, so let's start addressing them quickly one by one. First one is from Rajesh. He wants your view on CDSL. What's happening on the counter of CDSL, Gaurav? Because we've been getting a lot of engagement for this particular counter. Talk to us about the view forward.
See, this is an interesting stock for the reason that it did nothing. When it made a swing high or a very strong upside in May, around 31st May, around those levels. After that, it was seen having a lull period where it did nothing. It was just forming a basing, rounding bottom sort of, not a proper one, but a decent one, so to speak of. And after that, we saw a small breakout. It has made a retest around 1300 levels. You can keep that as a stop loss. As long as it sustains those levels, it can head back towards the level of 1425, 1430.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. This is from Ashokan. He wants your view on Tata Coffee. It has seen a decent, bouts of uptakes in the last 1 month. But if you look at the 1 month yield or 1 month gain, it is largely flattish, just trading around those 225 odd levels. Talk to us about what lies ahead for a Tata Coffee.
See, currently it is in the phase of around 1 year flat channel or horizontal channel to speak of, where you are having hurdles at levels of 250, as you mentioned, and the supports are placed anywhere around levels of 190. So why buy a range bound stock? Either you buy near the lower point of the range so that the risk reward is in your favor and you can expect a bounce back, sort of speak of. At the middle of the range, it's anybody's guess whether it will go to 250 first or whether it will go to 200 first.
Okay. How is NMDC looking on the chart? We have a comment coming in from Siddhartha and he wants your advice for the long term if it's a good stock to buy. Many of these metal companies have recovered last 1.5 to 2 months and so has NMDC. But is the recovery going to sustain?
For trading perspective, I can still say that if the metals are still looking interesting, we can see an uptick sort of happening. But if somebody wants to have a longer term view, say 2 years, 3 years, or probably more, then on a monthly chart, it does not look that interesting. There's a very strong hurdle at area of 200, and we have seen that is a 10-year hurdle we are speaking of. So you can say that it's currently trading at 125, 127, 200 is going to be a big one. So supports are also placed much lower at levels of 75, 80. So on that perspective, I would not be too interested. Probably names like Hindalco on declines are interesting if somebody wants to look at metals. Tata Steel on declines would also look at interesting because the downside supports are not very, very deep. So those names are looking interesting, but something like NMDC, which is stuck in the range, a decade-long range, I don't think for long term one should be looking at this name.
Okay. How is India Bulls Real Estate? Jigar is writing to us and he wants your advice on this particular stock. It has seen a decent 10-11% recovery from August lows, but still it's trading below that 75 rupees mark. Good time to buy, or are there better plays in the real estate space that one can look at?
See, there are definitely better plays. I don't know if the fundamentals also match up with the names of probably Oberoi or Lodha or Sunteck for that matter. But if you look at the structure wise as well, then DLF, if it sustains above 405, that will give a very strong upside. Oberoi Realty gave a breakout and it declines towards 1000. If it sustains, we can see a very strong upside in Oberoi Realty as well. So there are multiple names that are looking interesting on weekly charts. Brigade has seen a breakout. I would not buy at the current levels, but slightly high levels. If it sustains a little bit high levels, there's a 2-3 year breakout. So there are multiple names with much better technical structure. I would rather stick to those names rather than something which has not performed, which has history of not performing even in bull markets.
Okay. Moving on to the next query. This is from Ashok and he wants your view on Airtel for the short term. It's trading very close to its 52-week high, and over the near term, do you see it breach those levels and make a fresh high perhaps?
So there's a possibility if you look at the daily chart, then from November 2021, it has given a breakout, or you can say almost a 10-11 month breakout that we are looking at, and it's sustaining those levels. So one can keep a stop loss of 770 and buy. It can head. I mean, it's difficult to say exactly how much one can make in next 10 days, but one can keep riding the trend. The volume participation, OI participation, everything is positive. It's not taking cues from Nifty as well. We saw decent correction happening from 18,000, 18,100, but the stock was relatively stable. So from that perspective, I think it can see some further upside.
Okay. The next question and the next stock I want to flag off is Canfin Homes. Vasu is written to us and he wants your advice here. What's happening in Canfin's technicals, because the stock has fallen quite a bit last 5-6 sessions, almost 15% on the downside.
So the technicals were a little bit ahead of the curve this time. So if you draw a trend line from probably October 2021, it failed to sustain above those levels, and we saw a very strong red candle being formed. So, and after that we saw major downside coming in. So there was a false breakout sort of. The prices did not close above the breakout area. Rather, we saw rejection happening at those areas. But yes, it was a little surprising. The ferocity of the fall that we have seen happening. Overall structure is still not very positive. I would skip buying here because it has fallen 10-15% in last 4-5 sessions, that should not be the criteria to buy anything.
Okay. The next query I want to flag off is from Rahul, and he wants your advice on PNC Infratech. Good 10-12% uptick seen last 1 month. Is it sustainable?
It had given a breakout around 265 to 70. It has come to retest those levels. So as long as it is trading about 265 to 70, we may see a spike again coming in. But there should be a strict stop loss, because whether the breakouts are going to be sustained, it's anybody's guess in falling scenario. But at this stage, the structure doesn't look too weak. We can see a bounce back sort of happening.
Okay, the last query I want to flag off. This is from Ashu Khera. He wants your view on Yes Bank. Trader's favorite. What is your advice here?
Avoid so any stock where we see the reason is predominantly that it's a 15 rupee stock, it's a 10 rupee stock, how much can I lose? But as I always say, something which has eroded 90% of value, I don't see why one should be too aggressive on that. Probably if you want to play for 5, 7, 8%, it's fine, but for that also you need to have a compelling reason. I would avoid buying Yes Bank or likes of Idea for that matter.
Okay. Final query I want to address, which we've been getting since yesterday actually. This is from Rajesh. He wants your advice on SBI Card. So if you could quickly talk to us about how the technicals are placed.
So for SBI Cards, there was a breakout at lower levels of 895, 900. I would be buyer at those levels. At the current junction, it has a major hurdle at levels of 1020. So like in previous discussions, it is at the middle of the range. I don't see one should be preempting either a breakout or a breakdown.
Okay, well, there you have it. Gaurav, thank you for answering all those queries in detail. But before we let you go, we want to know what your own preferred picks are in the market right now.
The first would be buy on Cochin Shipyard. We have seen the space going quite strong, and we have seen a breakout sort of happening in Cochin Shipyard, 2-year breakout. Volume participation of last trading session has been exceedingly well. I would recommend buying on declines towards 405, 410, keeping stop loss of 390 and playing for targets of 450. Second would be a sell on Voltas. We've seen the stock underperforming. We've seen some short positions getting built as well. Breakdown was also on the cards. One can play for targets of 890 with the stop loss at 935.
Okay, so a sell on Voltas and buy on Cochin Shipyard. Thank you so much, Gaurav, once again for taking time out and talking to us about your picks, your view on the market, and helping our viewers out as always. With that, we're going to wrap it up right here on Morning Trade. Thank you for watching, but stay tuned. Markets with Santo and CJ is coming up next.